Greetings everyone and welcome back to 365 Days of Prog. Today we're gonna be reviewing Reflections on the Future by 2066 and then...
Hi, my name's Naomi. I'm an avid progressive rock fan, but I'm a long ways from knowing all the prog albums out there. But this year, I'm gonna give it a try. This is 365 Days of Prog.
You know, I finished listening to this album about an hour ago. I was so hyped about it that I just wrote the script right after listening to it and I'm now recording this video. So yeah, if you can see that I'm beaming up, that's because I really am. I really want to make this video. I'm having a great time doing it. So for starters, here are some of my favorite bits from this album. So reflections on the future might be the... Okay, you're done? Okay, cool. So reflections on the future might be that one singular at the top of the list band of oh god, do I wish they made just one more album. We see a lot of bands on this list and in general in the progressive community that have only made one album, which was definitely so great that we all wanted the second one but unfortunately never got, and this is one of those bands and I'm really aching to see that they have no other releases. And that's because this German band from Mannheim, which is definitely a lovely place to go and a lovely place to create music in, I know I've been there, they formed in 1971, they created this album and released it in 1972, but then promptly disbanded and each and every member went his own musical way. And while we did get another release in 1999 called Reflections on the Past, this one couldn't really be described as an album, but mostly as taking the original album, adding some demos onto it that were supposed to be a second album at some point and then mashing it all up together, and honestly it doesn't add a lot new, and thus we can say that this band actually only has one release. Now for those of you who don't know, 2066 is actually 1066 if you add 1000 to it. Oh, yeah, that was kind of stupid to say. There's no significance to the numbers, of course it equals that. So no, 1066 is actually the year when the Battle of Hastings occurred in. Do I know what the Battle of Hastings is? I have no idea. But let's continue. This album on the Prog Archives is categorized as being heavy prog, but whenever I read heavy prog I start thinking about bands like Rush, and honestly this one couldn't be further from Rush. I think that a better and simpler description for this music would be a retro symphonic eclectic post-experimental prog fusion. Yeah, that's better. But I'm not joking, this album actually has it all. It really does have a ton of things within it, but the lovely thing about this one that although it ventures out in many different directions, it somehow always has the same origin point in which it comes back to, thus giving this band its own signature sound. But for simplification, I would say that this band sounds a lot like a funky sort of ELP, with the added benefit of having the Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull's flute laid across several different tracks from this album, which make it a whole lot better. So if you ever thought for yourself what would have happened if Ian Anderson made a guest appearance in an ELP live show, well, this would sound exactly like it. And specifically, this album is also led by vocalist Jeff Harrison. I'm not entirely sure that you say his name is Jeff because it's written with a G, but who knows. And he sort of has two types of vocals. The one type is the very, lovely melodical type of vocals that is very impressive, while the other one is more like he's playing a character, which is also pretty cool in the settings of most of the songs on here. And this album, of course consisting of two sides, has a pretty stark difference between the two sides, although maintaining some sort of the same sound of the band. While the A side has the shorter tracks on it, of course they're not really short, but compared to the B side they are. These tracks, they're more concise, they're more well thought out, and they do sound like it, and they're definitely great. But the B side is the side that I personally like the best, because it puts a whole lot more emphasis on semi-improvisation, and I believe that to be amazing, and an added benefit is the songs being longer. And for those of you who are wondering, I would compare the B-side for this album as being quite similar to Hawkwind's Space Ritual live album, which we've actually reviewed on the series, so if you like that album, you're gonna love the B-side for this one. But hold up, don't go ahead and listen to only the B-side for this one, especially if you don't know this album. Go ahead, listen to the entire album. You might find that you really like the A side more than the B side, or vice versa, you like the two of them. I personally really like the two of them, but I think that the B side is just definitely stronger. And specifically, I love both tracks on the B side. I think the stronger one has to be the title track, which goes in many different directions, and the one point which I really fell in love with this song was the point where it took a sort of experimentalist twist on everything and kind of sounded like the Beatles' Revolution 9, which is personally one of my favorite tracks from the Beatles, and this just sounded fantastic. I really love this one, and this entire song was so well made, although being semi-improvisational, and I think it's the best of the best. But the second track on this side, being the fifth track overall on this album, is called The Way That I Feel Today, and this one is pretty similar to the one previous to it, but it does add two twists that I really like. The first one, of course, is the flute playing that is awfully missing from the last track, and the second one is the way that it incorporates swing into the music, at least in the beginning, and it kind of creates this progressive swing sort of vibe, which is something that I've never heard of, never heard in any type of execution on any album, and honestly, now that I know that it exists, I only want to listen to this type of music. Because outside of prog, I think that swing is one of my top favorite genres in music, and the combination of progressiveness and swing just never occurred to me, but now that I've listened to it, I really can't go back. So yeah, this second side is just truly marvelous. I really liked it. It's almost perfect, I think. I wouldn't say it's like a 10 out of 10, but it definitely rounds up to a 10. And I think it's fantastic. The first side is also good, but it takes some more time to know. So for now, I'm gonna say this album isn't perfect, but it's definitely very close. But yeah, this is one of those albums and bands that I've seen a lot of hype revolving it. And I like it when there's hype around an album, but what I found by now is that whenever there's hype around an album, I feel pressured to give it a higher rating, when in actuality, I might not like it that much. So I kind of took this one hype with a grain of salt, but it did pay off at the end, because this album was 100% justifiably hyped, and I really liked it, and it does really capture the essence of prog, which is also pretty nice. And so far I've discovered that I really like German prog, I just don't like krautrock, because what these guys have made is truly fantastic. And if anyone here is watching this video and you don't know of this album quite yet, I highly urge you to go ahead and check it out. So this cover looks like it was made by taking some children's plastic figurines, then throwing them on the floor, taking a picture and then drawing what it looks like. And of course spicing it up with some very interesting semi-surrealism. But yeah, this is a pretty cool cover and I only suppose there's more to it than I actually know. But the thing is, I usually don't really research a lot about the covers that I review on here. I just say what I think about them, and whenever there's some really nice pieces of trivia about an album cover, I usually get it from you guys down in the comments. So if anyone has something interesting to say about this cover, I'm ready to hear it down in the comment section. This one receives an easy 9 out of 10. It is absolutely funky and definitely replayable. And I only believe that after this video I'm gonna listen to it again, so well, stay tuned for that. But that's about it guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video and stay tuned for tomorrow because we're going to be listening to an album called Arena and it's by the band Marsupilami. I don't know if I said it right, but it's definitely a cool name. I of course want to thank my lovely supporter over on Patreon, so thank you so much to Clay Wanham, you are the best, and if any of you want to support me over on Patreon you can find the link down in the description or in my about page. But that's about it guys, have a wonderful day and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Bye guys.